So it's pretty late at night here, and we get the fire going, hanging out in the forest. But we got this problem we got to deal with. The problem comes from one of the dudes in the D&D DMs only Facebook group. And so I asked the guy, I say, hey man, I'd like to do a show about your problem, because the problem you're dealing with a player is really huge. And it would take me like 500 pages to say what I think about it. And he said, yeah man, go ahead and do it. And he's changed all the names. So none of the names are the same. We're going to call this William Stewart the Trouble with Jeff. And what we're going to do today is we're not going to really do a lecture, but we're going to analyze or break down this problem and think about it from different perspectives and see, maybe give William some ideas, maybe give some players who encounter these similar situations, because we all heard the term murder hobo a lot lately, and I've been wanting to do a show about murder hobos and how to deal with them. It's something that's kind of happened in the last, I don't know, since 5th edition. You never really heard about this very much before that. So let's break down the problem. And no action, no killing, no philosophy on dice rolls, no character rolling. We're just actually talking about at the table problem for a DM. And if you're a player, you might pick something up from this too, because even as a player, even though the DM is usually ultimately in control of the table, you have a say too. So it's a collaborative process of everyone playing together. So let's just take a look at this problem here. And I know we're looking at a Word document, but I want to be able to highlight some things and talk about particular points, and we'll draw some stuff here to kind of help visualize stuff. So the beginning sentence right off the bat, a murder hobo player has left the campaign. Not Elvis has left the building. So we got a murder hobo, all right? So we're going to, what's a murder hobo? We'll do some sunglasses on this guy, put a baseball cap on backwards. And he's a frowner, right? So he's not a real nice person. What is a murder hobo in the first place? We got that. What murder hobo? It sounds terrible, doesn't it? What is it? Well, using the word murder and hobo together. I mean, hobo was kind of like, bums riding on trains in the Depression era. And we all know what a murder is. There's millions of shows about that, and that's a very nasty thing. So what's a murder hobo, and what's it doing in D&D? What is D&D doing with hobos that ride trains that kill people, right? So it's kind of a inflammatory word to really describe someone who's indiscriminately going on a murdering rampage in your game, killing everyone. And it's not a problem for me, because I like to do kind of adaptive dynamic difficulty, but it's a lot of problem for people who have kind of a real orchestrated campaign, and there's nothing wrong with that. And one of the problems they kind of have is they're trying to create like a campaign that has a story that kind of has a particular twist at a particular point and a particular series of events. They put a lot of time and energy. It's almost like a television show or a book, and they've really got the plot worked out really well, and it has a lot of flexibility for the players along the way to go do weird stuff. Like if you're traveling off your cool mega awesome campaign on these crazy islands that are inspired by the Moonshade Islands and the Bahamas and ancient Greece, and there's an ancient temple destination here, and here's a massive city-state like the Invincible Overload. There's here's a rivers that come down to here, and pirates have been raiding this entire area, right? So you see this all the time. And the secret is that on one of these islands here, there's an evil black monkey ape, and it's got a control of a demon book, and this book is being used by a series of agents that have a king who's going to send a fleet of ships to go over here and try to use military force to get the book, because once they have the book, they can convince Thoth Amon to help them out take over the world, right? So, nasty plot. Players involved in this for whatever reason. Starts off as a vacation, ends up as a terrible plot to find the Book of Skelos or something. So, these are the kinds of things that DMs put together. Really cool, major, monumental Lord of the Rings type plots. And then they have to do things like, develop this and then develop this, develop these islands, develop all the NPCs. You're going to need a villain in here somewhere, so you're going to have some dastardly guy in here somewhere with a big sword in his hand or whatever, or a girl character or a demon or whatever who's in charge of just about everything evil possible. And he's going to have his swords crossed and trying to kill everyone, or magic spells, or whatever he's going to do. So you got to have a villain, you got to have a ulterior motives, you got to have all these plot points. So let's go back to William Stewart's got this campaign. He's put a lot of time and energy into it, and he's got a dude called Jeff, which it's not Jeff K, right? It's Jeff, which is a name change to protect the innocent, that's causing problems. So in our very first sentence, we have murder hobo player has left the campaign. So the dude is out of here. Now, we don't know whether there's like people that leave a Facebook group that say, I don't like you guys, and I've had enough of it. We all need that behavior all the time on the internet. There's no accountability. So I have to figure out, William, the DM, has to figure out what to do with this plot vital character. So Jeff was playing a plot vital character. So he's playing a PC, right? So you got this PC, all these characters playing together, right? And Jeff's character was this dude here, which is like the dude with the cell phone in his hand and the awesome mustache, who's the IPA beer drinker dude with the tattoos and the sleeve. And he's the guy that was integral to the whole story because the DM thought that, I'll make the story along about the players. You've got multiple players playing this game, and I want them all to be involved in the story. I want them to be connected to the story, and I think that's a brilliant idea. It's hard to pull off. I'm more of a believer in give them incredible motivations and the story will come. But what Williams put together here is really, very cool. So, in fact, let's read the next sentence. His campaign just had his 1-year anniversary. He's excited about this. That's really, really amazing. And he's come across this big problem. So in order to understand the problem with Jeff, who's the murder hobo who's left the building, and who was an integral part of the puzzle, so if this part of the puzzle is removed anymore, is everything going to collapse? Is the whole story not going to work? How's it going to happen? How does it affect the other characters in the story? So it's like writing a novel, really, and something I really enjoy doing. So to understand the problem, he's going to have to set the scene here. So he's got this world of deep lore, kind of like this crazy chicken scratch thing we did here. So let's go through and bear with me for a minute while I read you kind of the backstory of the problem, and then we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to give you some ideas of what you could do as a DM if you had to deal with this, and maybe it'll help William, and maybe it'll help you, and maybe it'll even spur you on to tell me what you would do too, because the more information we share as DMs and players of all different generations, the all better we're going to get, and then our games are going to be more fun, and that's ultimately the goal. So we're just going to start about right here and go through this area and let you take the backstory set up, right? So the starting party of 4. Oh, there was 4. Okay, cool. So there's another person in the party. He said that 4. So this dude's got black hair or whatever. He's got crazy mop hair. I don't know what he looks like. So this dude's playing a character. He's probably playing one character. This person's playing one character. This person's playing one character. And then Jeff comes into formula at some point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 characters. And then this is the Jeff dude here who's been canceled out. So it's 5 ultimately. One of them convinced me to let her boyfriend join, and though it sounds like it's okay, the players are basically the chosen ones in the campaign. Hey, that's pretty crazy. So the characters are all the chosen ones in this incredible campaign. They're the ones that are destined to get the Book of Skelos and stop Thothaman and all this kind of business. I'm using some Robert E. Howard references here to keep it simple. But the boyfriend is the one which makes the interesting dynamics where his character has to try to keep up with the extra powers. The basic idea is them being the chosen one, however, they don't necessarily fit the job. They're just there at the right time. That's a really good plot twist. A lot of players, in the reality, we aren't really heroes. Having the characters being at the right place in the right time to be part of this huge, massive, incredible, diabolical Star Wars type plot is really, really cool because they aren't like, I'm going to change the world. They're going to bumble into this. They're going on vacation. They're stopping some pirate raiders. Being involved in stopping this kingdom from getting a handle on the Book of Skelos and giving it to Thothaman and causing the rain of colorless fire to rain down and destroy the entire kingdom, right? Oof, that sounds not very fun. We don't want that happening, right? So you're saving the world. That's a heroic act thing. So he's got characters that have become involved in this massive storyline, and they're integral to the entire plot. They're like the chosen ones destined for whatever reason. I mean, is it like the 5th element where multipass and fire are worth element love? Something about the 4 of them need to be there. And Jeff ends up being kind of roped and pulled into this group. Like he's the 5th element. I hate to say it that way, right? So here's an interesting point. So, before the campaign started, I invited another friend who we'll call Jeff. However, Jeff was going to be away for a few months during some volunteering stuff or whatever, military, doesn't matter. Jeff and me and Jeff are close, so I want him to be involved. So we planned his character receive his powers at the same time as a party, but then be captured and brainwashed by the BBEG, which is a phrase a lot of people use. I'm not a big fan of the phrase, but then again, I used to use phrases like TOVL and Warhammer Online. So BBEG means big, bad, evil guy, basically villain, okay? So he decided that, what William says, listen, these characters are going to get these incredible powers somewhere along the way that really draws them into this whole storyline. And Jeff's not going to be here to play all the time. He's going to be in and out with work or whatever's going on. So he's going to get his power granted to him at the same time as the other players. That's kind of a dependency. So in the very early ages of the campaign, Jeff's kind of being overly integrated into the power because the DM doesn't want him to feel left out. So the DM's being empathetic to Jeff to feel involved and engaged in the story, right? That's good. The party would then be presented with the opportunity to free the control once Jeff was ready to play. Easy peasy, nice plot hooks, get them involved. And sure enough, it mostly all went to the plan, but in the end, Jeff joins as his character. His first session ended up being full combat with him being healed at the same time as the party was attacked by a custom monster of mine. That's awesome. The party triumphed and with no losses began to rest nearby. All the session went well. So it sounds like the first few sessions that Jeff was integrated in this, everyone had a big combat scenario. They defeated some incredible enemy in this area here. Went really, really well. And Jeff's now integrated in the party. He's part of the team, right? So the next session, there's a knock at the door, 2 guards, the plot hooks for the party to progress. So that's another dependency. That's tricky. You have these there's a computer game called Deus Ex. It's actually something to do with Greek mythology and tragedy. These guys are more scholarly and learned than me. That means you kind of like manipulating the machine from above and falsifying things. This is dependency in the storyline. The DM has to make this kind of fabricated event happen to get the plot to shift gears and go in another direction. You can do that by cliffhanger, which is like, but the player party, they may not bite. They may not bite your cliffhanger. They may not know what's going on. So the DM kind of needs to give them a nudge. He's trying to nudge them. And this guard showing up at the door sounds to me like it's a really strong nudge. And we're right in this area down here. Let's just make this highlighted yellow for you. So the two guards, the plot hooks for the party of arrest, heard the commotion from their outpost, wanted to find out what happened. Jeff goes full murder hobo. So let's just clear this up a little bit. We're getting dirty here. So, for whatever reason, sometimes people when they're playing D&D, they're in a certain kind of mood, right? Let's just clear this off here. And their response to your challenge is going to be not what you wanted to have happen. And you need to be ready for this. So when you actually are creating the original challenge where the party, we're just going to put these little 4 characters here. Just call them the characters. Forget about the real people. We'll put a female character in there too. It's the girlfriend of Jeff or whatever. And here's Jeff with his hat on backwards, whatever, and his cell phone in his hand. So all these guys are the chosen ones. So there's 5 of them, I'm not mistaken. And so they have the situation where these guards are going to come in with their plate mail and their plumes and their halberds on or whatever, and they got their big weapons in their hand. And like, hey, you guys, what's going on with the story? But Jeff decides, kill them, right? Which is basically what these guys are giving you. Jip, in a real world, a police officer pulls you over, tells you you're going speeding, you're going 46, it's a 55-mile-an-hour zone. He's giving you a ticket. You're out $200. You're pissed about this. You'd like to give the guy some lip. But when the city guards show up and the DM has decided that these guys are going to be integral to the storyline, you're going to be hard-pressed to win the battle. If you're playing the Baldur's Gate games or Icewind Dale, they have a mechanic in those games that kind of do the same thing. You start spell casting in the city in Baldur's Gate 2, and then suddenly these magical wizards throw up and just destroy you and blow you up and put you in the prison. So it sounds kind of unfair. Or it's like the shark-infested waters in the CryEngine games, or even in the Elder Scrolls Online, they have these like scuttlefish that will chew you up and kill you. A lot of times in computer games we have this problem. We'll have a big island game. Like, here's a big island, the player's going to run around in Far Cry or whatever and play the game, and we got this huge beautiful ocean around it. We don't want you to get on the ocean and start swimming off into the no man's land, so we'll put shark boundaries and say if you swim out here, a helicopter come and kill you, or sharks will kill you. It's kind of a problem when you have a world that's like this. In D&D, you don't really need to do that. You can do other things, but you don't want those whole play session to go off into a meandering level of unprepared content, because then what will happen is the players may lose interest and become bored. So this is dangerous territory unless you're very, very, very good at being super creative on the spot and know how to manipulate people back to where you need them to be. So most people don't want that to happen. So the problem you a lot of time relies by using this strong arming technique here of getting these guys to go that way, right? But Jeff has decided to start destroying these guys. And as a DM, you don't want to cheat the dice rolls. You're like, oh crap, I made these guards and they're not that strong. The player are able to hold person and nuke this dude, and they got this one in. But this is the interesting part of the story here. Read this part right. The party narrowly stop him from inflicting any damage by grappling and then pass it off to the guards as him been being shaken during combat. The guards are pissed but accept, considering they can see the creature's corpse. So, it sounds like the party's investigating some killing happening in a building somewhere, and the party has decided to kind of restrain Jeff to prevent him from murder hoboing the guards, because it would cause a huge pile of trouble in the city or whatever it is they're trying to do. Now, imagine at that point, I'm not going to be too empathetic to Jeff, but you never know because it's a human being, right? How does Jeff feel now? So you're playing the game and your instincts tell you, like, these guys are giving us gyp, let's get rid of them, Shawshank Redemption style, and your party decides to grapple you. So that kind of turns into an us, the party, versus them. So I don't know the subtleties of it, but does the party realize that this is the instrument that you're using as a DM to force to get the next gate in the story to open? And is Jeff just in a bad mood one day and say, screw it, let's just kill these guards and take their stuff? You don't know. The murder hobo attitude is kind of this, chaotic, whatever, I don't care, do whatever I want to do. You're supposed to be with your comrades who should support you unequivocally in any situation. Sometimes he may see the guards as a challenge, that the DM has placed these in front of him for him to like, oh, we got to kill these guys. They might have notes in their pockets or keys, or once we have their uniforms, we'll put their uniforms on and we'll pretend we're guards and we'll sneak into the castle. Who knows what the player's thinking? When you're playing the session as a DM, put the DM up here with a cool hat on, right? Here's the DM going, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this crap, right? So the DMs are behind his DM screen. He's thinking, Jesus, you know, he's going like this the whole time, because what he really wants to have happen, he just kind of push everyone in the direction of the actual story. The party's trying to take matters into their own hand, maybe even double guessing that this is an instrument of the DM's power to try to make the story go a certain way, right? And they don't want that to happen. So you're starting to create conflict with all this kind of stuff. And Jeff's now being, everyone's against Jeff. So that's one thing that's kind of tricky about that situation. So that's the first step of advice I would give. These type of devices are tricky. You don't have to have just one. It doesn't have to be just one. If they kill the guards, I don't know why the party tried to subdue him. I would never do that in my party. I'd be like, well, good, let's kill the guards and pay the consequences. Let's get flagged red and take to the countryside and start killing things. I don't know why the party realized that this was an instrument of the DM, you know, story gate, and why they felt compelled to grapple and stop Jeff. Now, it could be a situation that Jeff's play style is so disruptive to they may be much more role-playing oriented, and they want to play things out very securely and safely and kind of follow things in maybe a lawful good type of way, or let the story world unfold the way the DM seems to be driving it. And for some reason, Jeff is sporadic and in and out of game sessions. They don't feel like he's part of the group, or his character's behavior is really bizarre, or really evil and diabolical. So there could be just conflict between the characters. As long as there's not conflict between the people in real life, that's okay. But as a DM, so here, what you need to do is you need to make sure, like, okay, listen, I shouldn't be upset that this happened. I really shouldn't have the party be a secondary instrument of my game session. So if the party, I don't know why the party tried to grapple him. That seems like they knew something. But the party is the goody two-shoes, and Jeff's being a wacko, and he's attaching the police officers. Like, no, don't attack the police officers. Don't attack the guards. I can sort of understand why that might happen. I wasn't there, right? So we're just trying to, there's a lot of guesswork going on here. But if that happens, as a DM, you need to have 3 or 4 other devices in your back pocket that will also work to get everyone here. And that should be a fun, creative exercise for you. So, you know, you need to have, number 1 and number 2 and number 3. And you need to think, oh, listen, strong arming guards and figures of authority didn't work out. No, they don't have AK-47s. What I need to do instead is something that tantalizes the party, such as a letter or note given to one of these players. You know, a letter or a note that says, hey, this is your old mentors trying to get your attention. He'd like for you to meet them there because he found out something really terrible is related to their father or their character. Family is a great way to players who really believe in their character, want to do a lot of role playing, or really believe that their character has got a story behind it. Family is a great plot device. When the J.J. Abrams took over the Star Trek movies, he used the whole theme of the whole movie, the first one with Christopher Pine and all the other kids, is all about family. You got like Spock's family and all this kind of business. So family is a great way because everyone understands what family is in real life. So a family technique is a good one called the F. You can always have a situation with someone's brother or someone's mother or someone's father or someone's old mentor or teacher or trainer ask for your help personally. That helps this person involved bring the story alive for them. That's one thing to do. The second thing you can do is always tantalize them with greed. You can always tantalize, if this doesn't work, let's say the guards got wiped out and the party didn't grapple them and stop them, but you still as a DM need a device to get the party to move to the next area. You can try tantalizing them with greed. And it doesn't necessarily just mean cash money and gold coins. It could be, the sword of Cass, right? If anyone who's played first edition, they understand this brilliant, beautiful sword. I can't draw it very well, right? The sword of Cass is an artifact weapon from first edition. Beautiful. Good Lord, I wish I could. Just like the warlord sword drawn by Mike Burrell. Is there a magical weapon? Is there a magical item in particular that appeals to just this character? This character's like, oh, we should try to get this. Or is it something that appeals to this character since these two have a real life relationship that can bond the two of them together? It can't be something like there's a treasure hoard and there's a dragon of the treasure hoard. That's just too vague. Is there a reason for the existence of this artifact? So that's another method. So greed or the pursuit of power, player power, especially if it connects into doing what's right or doing what's intriguing and interesting, and there's a lot of story behind the scenes. It's like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. Everything is about the ring. They could have just dropped it in from an eagle in Mount Doom, but one little ring makes this entire storyline, right? One little ring. Now, there's a lot more to it behind the scenes, but in essence, it's about the one ring and who has it. So you could do the one ring / greed artifact method. The third method I would try to do is try to introduce an NPC that can help the party and guide them to the location like a patron. Now in Traveller, which is a science fiction RPG from the late 70s, at the same time as D&D, they have a book called 76 Patrons. It's actually a really good book to pick up and read. I have a copy of it. It's in one of my storage boxes. I'm not going to pull it out. So I'm just going to jot that down here. It's called 76 Patrons. If you've never grabbed that, You can get it for cheap as a PDF. And from Classic Traveler, right? It is full of plot seeds. They're almost like one paragraph each. There are characters that you meet that have a reason. They want you to go somewhere. This daughter's been abducted. Wants you to rescue the daughter, but in reality, the person wants the daughter to be sold into slavery so he can steal a magical formula because he's in debt to someone that he has a gambling debt to. So, I mean, there's really, really crazy, relatable, real-life type, mafia-type elements to the storyline here. So this is a human problem. So we had the greed method, right, and now we have the human problem, and we have the other problem from before, and I forgot what I called it. So that's one way to deal with that kind of stuff. Let's go on with the story and read some of the details of the problem here. So we have this next part here from William. He's telling us more what goes on. As time goes by, it sounds like a lyric from Casablanca, doesn't it? The formula repeats. Jeff attempts to murder Hobo. One of the party members stops him just in time. So this has happened again, okay? So Murder Hobo Jeff, there's another situation in the game. Maybe, like for example, let's put our 76 patron here. William's a smart DM. He knows what he's doing. He's created a really interesting character that's like, I need your help. We need to go over here and go do this thing. And all the DM is really trying to do is to get everyone to go over here, darn you, because this is where the really cool stuff is going to happen, right? So the party wants to bite on this stuff. They can't wait. They know that this is going to lead to something. They don't even know what it is. To them, it's like, wow, it's a cool story. It's like when someone's interested in watching a new movie or a television series. They're hopeful that it's going to be the best one they've ever watched ever, whether it leads to treasure or story or whatever. It's not usually motivated by personal power, but for some reason, Jeff goes murder hobo again. Let's read the details of that, right? So it sounds like the same thing. One of the party members stops him just in time. Now he says, I'd like to note here that I told them all beforehand that this would be a heavy RP campaign, so no messing about. I made sure to tell Jeff this, especially since the last game I played with him had been the exact same formula. So at this point, Jeff and the DM had a conversation outside the game, say, hey man, listen, I'm trying to put some of these plot elements in my campaign, and when you go ballistic and start blowing dudes up, although it's hilarious, you're killing some of my key NPCs, and I don't want my key NPCs to be unkillable, like raid bosses in WoW that can't be stunned and can't be snared and are immune to poison. I don't want to start doing the Diablo 3 thing. So he has a cool conversation with Jeff. Now I agree, I think that's really useful. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to limit Jeff's fun, but you want to give purpose to what Jeff's doing. But it sounds like at this stage, it's the party versus Jeff. Jeff likes to go ballistic and start swinging his weapon. He's like Conan on Crack Rock. And everyone else is like, damn it, we just want to get to this cool story thing because this DM is good and we've been playing this whole campaign for a year. In fact, some of them at this point are like, oh man, we had to fight Jeff again. The campaign has turned into PvP. The party's trying to crowd control and stop Jeff from playing the game he wants to play. What I would advise you to do here is, as the DM, you need to make sure that this character is a badass, that this character can do something to completely immobilize Jeff, such as cast hold person and cast harm on him or hold him in place, or have some kind of magical demons that restrain him that everyone in the party would get wiped out in 1 millisecond. You need to do something that's incredibly powerful, that Jeff stands no chance whatsoever, not to kill Jeff, but to prevent Jeff from being able to do his murder hobo situation. And I hate to say this, okay, this is something that I've done before. You can use magical powers that have never appeared in a game anywhere, so the kids who are really good at your game don't have the chess piece counter for it. Okay, we just put a little knight here from a chessboard. Everyone knows knight and bishop and rook, there's a synergy between all the chess pieces. Players who play D&D a lot, they understand the game of chess. They know the counters for everything. So as a DM, sometimes you're going to need to create some kind of unknown magical entity or force. Okay, look at Eclavdra, first edition. And the Giant series, Volta Drow, all that, one of the noble Drow female priestesses. Before that module was written, before you actually encounter her in the Hall of the Fire Giant King, there's no mention of flails with tentacle things that can knock people and do paralysis. You can almost tell that, like, wow, we need to make sure this villain girl with snake heads that will bite you. And Salvatore picked that up and carried that whole theme along with his Menzo Brands and Drizzt Do'Urden series. We revisited the Drow and the Forgotten Realms. These flails, these female clerics like Breeza and everyone are running around and destroying people with these flails, and an instrument of power is the goddess of Lolth. That didn't exist until Eclavdra happened. Why was Eclavdra in the game? Eclavdra was a villain. So When a Cloud Drill was created as this powerful force, the instrument of power behind the whole Giants rating and whatever the storyline is, the DM had to create this instrument of power. So I suggest it's okay for you to create an instrument of power, just make sure that it has an expression that's understandable by the party. Like the Wand of Orcus, right? It could be something like that, where there's an artifact or an item, make sure the party never gets their hands on it. But you need to have a situation, it's almost like in every James Bond movie and every single detective movie, the detective ultimately ends up being tied to a chair somewhere. You are going to need to overpower them with some kind of believable level of villainy, okay, without it being a god or goddess. You don't need to have Loki come down to your campaign and start fixing things, or any of the other characters. So the instrument of power is a really great way to do it. Be sure the instrument of power that you're going to do to ensure the murder hobo situations don't continue to happen, because if you have characters that are integral and the player in the party is going to hit them 50% of the time and start destroying them, you know, it's going to ruin the epicness. Now, since we watch a lot of movies and a lot of people read graphic novels, they play lots of D&D games, they've seen comics, we understand when these guys show up in our campaign. Everyone kind of understands that when someone really, really important, you know, it's like God showing up in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You understand when the character, oh goodness, there's some wolves out there. When some characters show up that are really, really important, you know, you've got to put some time and energy as a DM into creating their design of their clothing, what they look like, get a mini made just for them. You know, they got to be epic and heroic. They have to stand out from the crowd. They can't be, they can't be Gandalf the Sword Slayer or something like that, or some guy on the top of the wizard tower who's got a book he wants you to read. It can't be some passive, normal, PC, killable type of character. You don't want to cheat. They could damage the character, but the character needs to sometimes have something like this instrument of power that no one can deal with. And it actually reminds the party that they're not gods or demigods. Okay? Let's go one from there. So the campaign goes on. Let's go down here. This is where we are right now. There's all the time do the work commitments, and a lousy boss who gives extremely little notice to shifts, but when Jeff isn't there, I make his character take up stand-back role and find a reason for him not to be around the innocent guards, and so he wouldn't murder them and things like that. So let's go down here. All right. So one of the things we're starting to establish now is, you know, we said this earlier, that Jeff can intermittently play, so the dynamic of the party, trying to do the things, trying to go towards a magical goal. They want the one-year campaign to unfold. They love the DM storyline. They love Williams, what he's making. They want to get to that island where the Book of Skelos is hidden. That's their goal. They want to get on with it. They want to do that. They don't want to deal with this 90210 character drama. So this is becoming a negative force in the synergy of the group, even though it may be this person's boyfriend or something, right? Jeff in real life may be a completely different character. Hopefully he is. So the DM is like, well, Jeff isn't here, but we need the character, because remember, they're part of a chosen one. This, you know, ensemble cast of these 5 characters are super, super important. You don't want to ruin that and break that. So the DM ends up controlling the Jeff character and having him set a back seat. That way things can go smoothly. And I imagine this party of players were really enjoying those situations because they're not having to grapple stop Jeff. Now the problem with this, like I said before, is the DM, it's really our job. They should never have to make that kind of choice. They shouldn't be having, they should either just kill Jeff and get rid of him completely, which I don't really advise, or the players, everyone needs to implicitly understand that when this heroic entity arrives to, you know, open the next gate for your storyline, that you guys shouldn't be fighting amongst yourselves to allow the DM's campaign to go forward, right? So let's just go here, this next section here. He had another party member who was on Jeff Watch. It almost sounds like a website you should sign up for to send your kids who are addicted to drugs or something, right? Jeff Watch. So even the language and the writing is starting to reveal that, like, there's a lot of unhappiness going on with dealing with Jeff. It's that one friend you see memes on the internet, right? So you got 4 people now who love the 1-year anniversary campaign, which is totally amazing. All these months in the calendar flip by now. They can't wait to get to the Book of Skelos and stop Thoth Amon. And Jeff is an impediment to their fun. It's starting to become a trend, okay? They've even got things called Jeff Watch to make sure the character doesn't do anything. Let's just read this here, okay, carefully. He and another party member, who was on Jeff Watch, arrived at the place where his contact used to be. Long story short, she wasn't there and a new shop had been set up. So when the new shop owner was oblivious to the whereabouts of the said contact, confirmed by natural 20 on an insight roll, by the way. This sounds like 5th edition. I'm not sure what an insight roll is. That's okay, though. Jeff decided the best course of action was to assault him and threaten to kill him. It sounds like Jeff is going into Conor McGregor mode and starting beating people up and smashing their cell phones after he made his millions. So it sounds like Jeff's instinct is to crush everything that he bumps into. So I think he certainly has. You put his picture in the internet dictionary of murder hobo. He sounds like He sounds like someone that I'd like to get along with. No, I'm not. I'm joking. I'm a huge combat fan. I don't, the DM. I think what you really need to do in this situation, you're going to have to stop using these methods where your instrument of story moving forward is some character that can be blown up. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but you can't have these characters. They're going to end up being, you're going to have these little tombstones of all your cool plot devices that never made it. And you're repeating the same mistake over and over. And I'm saying it's a mistake. I'm just saying you're repeating the same problem because of the dynamic of this 4 chosen heroes with Jeff, whose instinct is just to wipe everything down and kick over the gravestones. His attitude is breaking that device. You need to come up with another way to deal with that, okay? Jeff decided the best course of assault, and we read that already. Now we go down here. After this, Jeff was really sulky. Well, I can kind of understand that. I'm not going to be a Jeff supporter. I'm not printing t-shirts or anything. But you can start to see that Jeff understands the rift between my party's trying to grapple me. They're like the one drunk friend that won't stop drinking and trying to get into their car. I can just see in real life this is starting to become a personal issue between the behaviors and the values of these players here, who just want the magical campaign from William, and Jeff's, whose behaviors erratic and getting in and out of the game, maybe doesn't respect the game, I don't know. Hopefully these two have been talking to each other, if I've gotten that correct, but I don't know. It's creating conflict, and you know what it's doing? It's that, you ever seen those United Way thermometer gauges? They're trying to raise money every year, and they have these little tick marks as the money gets higher. We only need $200,000 to go. Well, this campaign sounds like the thermometer gauge is going the other way. It's going down. So the amount of fun left and patience level is just getting dripped out. The soul of the campaign's being dripped out by Jeff's murder hobo type activity. You're the DM. You need to be able to handle this. So this is why this guy's asking for help. What can I do to fix this kind of a problem, right? So after this, Jeff was really sulky. He came back from one session a few sessions later, which I had to break my back to come with a reason to ask him how he got the party in the hidden underground cult, blah, 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 blah. So the DM is like, gosh, the DM's almost even had enough of Jeff. But he doesn't want to be mean. He wants to let him continue to play. He's working overtime to keep this guy integrated with the party. A lot of people would have given up already. They said, not at my table, get rid of this guy. There's a real-life relationship between Jeff. Jeff and the DM were friends, remember? You don't want to ruin your friend, your real-life friend, just because of a D&D game. It's not worth it. Jeff's behavior in the game may be very, very different than it is in real life. Jeff may not like some of these players. They drives a baddie. You know how people just don't like each other sometimes. So let's get down to this part right here. I suspect it's more to do with being criticized for murder hoboing. That's one thing that's very tricky. If you play the game and you think you did what you're right, but people start labeling you as a murder hobo, it's like you kind of feel like everyone's passed judgment upon you, and so you can never just play the game where you want to. So this rift is developing and being reinforced, and having special talks with the character outside the game. And Jeff's like, well, how can I fix it? Let me give you some storyline elements to integrate my character. I want it to work. There's some kind of fundamental difference of player value and goals between this group of 4 and the Jeff guy. And the DM and this group of 4 are very invested in the relationship, but Jeff's kind of disrupting everything, right? So now, I've been left with basically an evil character who is vital to the plot that no longer has a player. So you said in the very beginning, right, Jeff has left the building. Jeff is no longer there. But remember, the storyline was that he had these 5 characters. They were all the chosen ones, and they're going to stop Thaman from getting the book of Skelos or whatever it's going to read. I personally heavy dislike the character. That's kind of tricky. The DM and Jeff know each other in real life, but the DM can't stand the Jeff character, whatever he is. Let's just call him... He's a halfling with a 2-handed sword, right? And so I don't want to just kill him off outright. Now, this is something I want to talk about here. I know we're talking a lot here, but this is something very critical. The DM kind of wants to keep the integrity of the 5th element thing going on so the rest of the party can continue to go on. There's nothing wrong with this character being killed or removed from the game. I think you could probably find a way to make it work. Like, for example, this may be an opportunity. Remember the silly 5th element movie? The one character is integral. You need 5 people to hold the key into the nuclear launch weapon, right? 5 keys. You've seen this recently in some of the Netflix series. 2 people got to hold the key in their hand, right? So you got these 5 key holders, which are the 1, 2, 3, 4, one more for Jeff. Let's make Jeff a black key. No pun for the rock band. And so the black key, it won't work. So this won't work unless you have all 5 keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could remove this key from the formula, and this could turn into some kind of a side quest for the rest of the party to go resolve to fabricate another key. Not in a literal sense, I'm talking about symbolically. And then return to this. This is a great gameplay opportunity. We're going to just erase Jeff from the formula here, right? Sorry, Jeff. He left the building. Jeff is no longer there. In fact, let's clean this guy up here. So that's an opportunity for you as a DM. Everyone knew up front that it took 5 people to do this campaign, but now you can create an opportunity where this group of kids or players who love the campaign can now go do this side jaunt, maybe one afternoon or maybe a one shot, and fix this problem. That gives them a sense of ownership and camaraderie while they solve the problem together and orchestrate it to get back on track to where they're trying to go. So that's an opportunity, right? It doesn't really require killing off the Jeff guy, completely and have them lie on the ground dead. And, good, we finally killed that guy. You want their focus to be on how do they solve the new problem to go towards the issue, not to good, I'm glad we killed that guy off. He was a weenie. Because the next person that tries to join into this party as well, Dorothy tries to try to play who's not very good, who just likes Magic the Gathering. They might see this group is building a sense of solidarity. They might see Dorothy as someone who doesn't really know how to play very well, and that person may feel ostracized early too. You may have a situation it'll be hard to get any player into that environment because these folks may become gun shy. So as a DM, you can prevent that gun shy problem by putting the attention off the real life people, okay, and back into the game world by solving the missing black key problem. And then you're going to get to this kind of cool stuff here, right? This is what you want to have happen. All this problem is just to get to this, okay? And he says himself, William says, I'm not a fan of doing that thing. I don't think you need to do that, William. I don't think you need to kill off the Jeff character. You can have the Jeff character magically disappear, run away, be captured, or whatever. You can introduce a new NPC that's going to help out. But I think what you would want to do is instead is imagine the drama where, you can, look at the Lord of the Rings. Some of the characters are killed, right? Some of the characters are flat out. They're separated. The group gets separated. The orcs capture the hobbits. All these kinds of things. There's ways to separate the party. I wouldn't separate this core 4 chosen group. I would keep them together. But there's a way to pull Jeff out of the formula. Jeff could be captured by a character who's taken away, and then by the time you get here to try to rescue Jeff, and who also has got the secret to the black key, just been sacrificed on the altar. It's like a Romeo and Juliet thing. You got to the tomb too late, and there's Jeff laying on the ground after drinking the poison because Jeff thought there was no other way. So Jeff actually becomes a tragic hero, right, without all the literary whoop-de-doo in the behind the scenes. So Jeff could be taken away and be used as a human sacrifice or something, or a hobbit with two-handed sword sacrifice. So when the party see Jeff's death, it brings finality to that character. You've seen this in any television show. A lot of situations you have characters, they get killed off and they die, and usually after they have done something heroic. Now, this is a key point because the DM recognizes this. He's thinking to himself, even down here in his question, he isn't going to sacrifice himself. He's not going to have Jeff kill himself, right? He isn't going to turn on the party either. So we're talking about the character now, the Jeff character, which we're calling the halfling with the two-handed sword. He's vital to the plot, being the chosen one along with most of the players, so I'm in an impasse. And that's why I think this kind of suggestion may help you. I don't know the details, William, of your 4-character chosen one storyline, but if you can find a way, just like in real life, where we need 5 keys and 5 key turners at the same time, and Jeff is taken and captured and taken away because they need him to be, they want to find a way to do this by themselves. You have a force of evil the party can go after now, and then when they get ready to rescue Jeff, he's already found dead on the sacrificial table. So Jeff is dead. He's dead, Jed. So, but then that may give you the key from whatever happened with Jeff. You can use that to your device. Like maybe a drop of his blood works for whatever the chosen one thing is. There's all kinds of devices you see in films and stuff where someone helps his fingerprints put on a piece of masking tape. You may find some kind of way to the Jeff of dead blood. The blood of dead Jeff will still work in the formula when everyone has to cut themselves and do something at some magical gate, whatever's going on there, right? So here's the major question at the very end here, right? Any suggestions? Perhaps a good way to do a redemption arc, or perhaps some way to send him away but keep him available for the climax of the campaign. I actually wouldn't keep reintroducing the character. What I would try to do now is build this strong teamwork and solidarity with your core 4, right? And turn these frowns into smiles again. Get that 4 heroic group that's been with you for a year working together, 1, 2, 3, 4. Get them working together on a problem that their way of playing is really shining. You tailor this side jaunt of finding the black key to be brilliantly perfect for how they like to play. If they're playing a bunch of lawful good characters, free a bunch of people from a carnival. I don't know if there's some kind of temple of evil and you need to stop the temple that's happening and then go kill someone at the bottom in order to open a gate to go to heaven. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're going to do, make sure that it's a murder mystery. They love murder mysteries. They want to see who killed someone. Once they figure out who killed the Duke's son, they realize that the Duke's wife was against it. Another kingdom poisoned them. There's all kinds of tragic things you can do. If they're do-gooders, give them something where they can be like The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery, the detective story. Do they want to do something that's more frontier frontal assault and stop the giants like Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl? Do they want to do something where they're finding clues and mysteries like the Fifth Element, and they have this one person they try to save Jeff? Are they actually trying to save Jeff himself? So those are the kinds of things I would do. I would tailor this side jaunt to fix the story to totally gratify and make these players totally happy. And it could be a one-shot. It'd just be super duper simple. It doesn't need to be. I wouldn't worry at this point. I'd worry more about your dedicated group of chosen one players, and I wouldn't try to force integrate Jeff into the formula. Now you may say to me, because you know the details, like, well, but Jeff's really critical. Well, can we use the blood of Jeff? Can we use the left hand of Jeff that's been lopped off now? And was the villain doing that already? These guys don't need to lop Jeff's hand off. We did this in Doom, and one of the ways you got to open one of the doors is to put your hand that's got a DNA footprint on the console to read a hand scanner. You could take a dead guy and lift his hand up and just plop it on the scanner. It opens the door for you. So is there a way to use Jeff's body to open the gate to go forward? And everyone knows the guy's dead, so everyone's accepting of that. They didn't cause his death. You know, someone might say, this guy here might say, well, he gets what he deserves. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's fine. That's just a, postscript of the whole situation. So what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't try to create a heroic story element oriented around Jeff. Jeff has left the building anyway. It wasn't really working with this group. Find a way to re-empower this group here. Have Jeff be the integral plot point, still work and still be reasonable and not feel too fabricated. And that would be my advice to you for that type of situation. So I wouldn't try to keep him available for the climax of the campaign. And even this you have here, this may not even be the climax. There may be another 10, 15 steps before you get to some glorious climax denouement type thing happening later on. So, this is just a doorway. Get past this doorway, focus on this collaboration here, give them a way to do this, bring finality with Jeff dead on the altar, and I think you'll be okay. I think you'll be good to go. So if you like these kind of videos, let me know. Like I said, I'd love to hear what you think. How would you as a DM handle this kind of tricky situation where a real-life personal relationship between you and one of the players and a player's relationship with another player in the party, but the character's actions are really bizarre and murder hobo type stuff? How do you deal with that? When you have these stories and plot lines and adventures that are very fabricated and very integral for the next step to happen, you see what kind of trouble you can get yourself into. So that's a real problem with a lot of people's campaigns and a lot of things you try to do. Like, you even see this in the things I did with the kids in the Studying the Hill Giant shit, finding the Infinity Chain. They just happened to go that way. I didn't try to fabricate that. If they didn't go that way, I was going to have to come up with another device to get them to go all the way to the Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl. And even in those original TSR modules way back from 78, 79, 1980, they're saying they either got here by this or they got here by that. They don't set that up a lot. You got to set that up. And that's one of the biggest challenges of being a DM, is make sure your storyline, everything connects so these players can feel like they're the ones that discovered it and they're the heroes and they're the ones that changed everything and succeeded. All right, we'll cut it off there. We'll leave it to you, and we'll hope to hear back from you. Let me know what you think. We'll talk to you later.